Hello, and thank you guys for staying in with me this evening. We are working on water this week. If you have your reference photos, which went out a little bit earlier today, thank you for letting me get them out today. We had a wonderful Easter weekend with family. Not with family, with our little family, and it was a lot of fun, and we all stayed at home and stayed together, so that was a wonderful time. And this week I thought we could tackle water, waves, ocean, that kind of thing. So as we go through, we're going to appreciate the ocean in all its glory and wish we could all go to the beaches that are closed right now. At least they're closed down where we are. So if y'all got the class packs, we have all of our reference photos, and all the reference photos have examples, some tips, color swatches, and then you have the reference photo. And just like always, I recommend that you print them out in black and white so that you can see the values, and then we will and then you can also print it out in color, but don't rely too much on the color because, like I said, depending on whether you're on an iPad or you print it out on your printer, they all have different color profiles. They might not be super accurate. And then they're also a little bit different between even what's in nature and what you take a photo of. Photos are always a little bit skewed. So this is our color palette today. And most of this week is kind of a little bit monochrome, but I love it because when you take a look at the ocean, you can see so many subtle color differences that you can pick out and you can really work with, and you can accentuate it where you choose to, and you can play up characteristics of it, you can play down characteristics of it, you can do all kinds of fun things. All right, all right, so this is today's reference photo, and we are going to paint a happy, beautiful, sunny beach day, and what I like to imagine is the Gulf, and it has just gorgeous blue water, white sand, and like these just really wonderfully puffy clouds, and we're going to paint them so that it doesn't feel too kitschy. The way that we're going to do this is it's not going to be like a postcard you see. We're going to make this feel like art. So first what I'm going to do, is I'm going to use some Prussian blue, and then I'm going to bring in some teal and white, and just a little bit of Van Dyke brown, and I am going to have that be the horizon. And so if y'all notice, I talk about this again and again and again. The horizon, the center of the painting's right here. You don't want to put the horizon there. So I'm just kind of like marking kind of where the horizon is, so that I know it's my reference. I kind of know where the ocean ends and the sky begins. So that's just kind of a little bit of a marker for me. Hi, Roro.
Hi.
Go to bed. It's after bedtime. That was my daughter, so she was just peeking her head in. Now I'm gonna come in and I'm gonna kind of mark some of the darkest parts and the darkest parts are gonna be in the waves. That's where the shadows are, and it's gonna actually be in the waves that are closest to us because that's where the most contrast will be. So that's where you'll get the darkest darks and the lightest lights. And I'm just going to kind of come in and use this to, I don't want the lines to be too hard, so I'm gonna kind of rough it up a little bit around the edges because I don't want it to be too sharp, because waves don't have a lot of sharp edges, and if they do have sharp edges, it tends to be in the like the foam. But there's a lot of movement, so you kind of want to have it move and have it go. All right, so then I'm gonna do do some Prussian blue. I'm gonna do yellow. So this is gonna make a green, and we're gonna make this really lovely green, but it's gonna be a dark green. So this will be what we use for like the darkest parts. This is gonna be the darkest dark that we use in this whole painting. So I apologize, my iPad is not doing a great job at this moment. It is, so if y'all are asking questions, I will duck in and take a look. But for whatever reason, my iPad is not loading very well. So the internet is being a little futzy. There we go. And then there's another big wave that kind of just comes down. And this color that I'm using right now is actually going to be the darkest dark in the entire painting right here. So this is some of the drama. And there's not, I mean, this is a beautiful day at the beach, so it's not going to be all that dramatic, but it's going to give us a little bit of color variation, and it'll help break up the water. And so you'll notice that I maybe didn't have, I made this wave a little bit bigger than it is in real life, and that's okay. That's it's the camera shortens things, and so in real life this is probably a little bit bigger than what the camera captures. So I'm coming through and just adding some extra darks so that we sort of have a baseline of what our darkest darks are. Oh, there we go. Now I can see my iPad. So if y'all have any questions, please throw them up. Sorry, I've been flying a little bit blind. All right, so we have all of our darkest darks, and these are going to be the deepest, darkest, shadowy parts of the waves. And waves, as you look at them, they actually have a lot of light that comes through them. So they're pretty luminescent. Like they almost shine and shimmer and glow, which is really cool. It can be difficult to capture, and usually the parts that glow are a lot of the time I have to go and use a color picker in like Photoshop, which is that eyedropper tool, and I'll say, what exactly is this color that is so luminescent? And it'll be a crazy gray that you don't think. And it's just has this beautiful contrast against the shadows, and so that is what makes it so beautiful. All right, this color through here is actually, it's kind of a warm sandy color, which seems a little weird because your eye is so used to, your eye is very used to blue. Your mind is telling you that it's blue, but in actuality, it's closer to the color of sand because there's very little water over it. So it is going to be much, much closer to the color of sand. It's not, in fact, blue. And it's very, there will be a little bit of a hint to it because it is reflecting the sky a little bit, but it's much more gray than you think. So if you make it too blue, it will look pretty weird. It'll look fake. So this is kind of where you start working on these edges, and you don't want it to be hard edges because the water flows and so the shadows flow together, and so you don't want these hard lines in the waves. Okay, so this is kind of this area from here, and then I'm gonna come in and do this, and then I'm gonna do this area. The next area has a little bit more color because it is, the water is a little bit deeper, but still the big thing about water is that it reflects the sky. So your sky and your water have to match. If you have a sunny sky and you have stormy water, it kind of doesn't make sense. Like your eye won't know what's going on. And the water will always, 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 always be darker than the sky. So I still have some of the color, because I'm using the Stay Wet palette, I still have some of the color that I mixed before. And this helps if you go directionally with, like if you kind of move the way the water would move, it helps give the feeling of the water. Okay, so that is sort of the middle ground of the water. And now as we move even farther back, we're gonna have the water it'll be a little bit bluer, but it'll go grayer again, and it'll go darker and deeper because the water is deeper. I can't believe we're back at Monday again, y'all. It's been wild. I hope everybody's Easter was good. Did y'all have anything exciting go on? We had, my daughter got to a Stay Wet palette. A Stay Wet palette is these palettes that I'm using. I've been using this current palette and a bunch of the mixtures of paints for almost 3 weeks now. So I mixed all the colors, and they don't dry out because there's a sponge underneath and a special paper, and you keep it damp, and so you keep the surface damp, and then you don't waste paint, which is nice. Okay, so these are little brush strokes that you'll see, so there's some shadows in the waves. Then you come through and it's calmer compared to where the waves are breaking. So, I mean, it's a fairly calm day, and you just get the little white foam, you know, in the 2 feet of water as the waves are gently rolling. It's funny, after dark up here, we have these, because my studio is surrounded on windows by 3 sides, at night, when I have all the lights on, I hear all these bugs knocking on the window, trying to get in, all these moths. They're drawn to all the light. Okay, let's see. So I've put in all the midtones, as you can see, and so I put in all the midtones, and now I still need to do the lights, and I need to do the skies. The sky right now is so much, the sky is so much brighter than the water. So I wanted to put all the midtones in the water before I started doing the sky. Because the sky this is mostly a high key piece, and then it has a few shadows. So I'm gonna come through and I'm gonna put in a lot of lighter colors now. And so I'm gonna use the colors from the water, because y'all remember, the water is a reflection of the sky, not vice versa. And you can, with these clouds, you can take artistic liberty and rearrange them if you don't like the way they're in. You do just need to make sure that we keep mostly the light, puffy, airy feeling. Because, like I said, sky reflects clouds. I'm sorry, water reflects sky. Totally got that backwards. Water reflects sky, and so they do have to tie together. And I will just keep repeating that because that really is one of the major tenets of water landscapes. Whoops. And that was just kind of messed up the horizon a little bit, but we'll come back and fix it. So I'm putting in some lighter clouds. And these shadows all came out a little bit darker than I wanted. And thank y'all for everyone that nominated somebody to receive one of these demo paintings. It's just so sweet, and it makes me so happy that y'all are thinking of people, and it makes me so sad that we have all these people that are alone during this time, and because of everything going on, we can't be with them. I have 2 grandmothers, and one is in a memory care unit, and another one is healthy, but she's a lot older, so we have family tradition where we would all do Easter at her house, and we can't do that this year, and it's really sad that for her health we can't see her. So yeah, I love the stories that y'all have been giving me, and thank y'all for joining us. I finally have, oh my goodness, my iPad is finally up and running, so if y'all have questions, I can actually see what you're telling me. Otherwise, Otherwise, my phone is above me and I can't read the questions that you're submitting. So now I can, and I can tell you whatever questions you have. So first of all, that paintbrush is way too small for what I'm trying to do right now. So I'm going to switch out to a bigger paintbrush. And I'm going to come through. And this sky is fairly wispy. We talked about that last week when we were doing skies. We were doing how to keep it wispy and not have it be too boxy. And that's a lot of wet brushwork and wet into wet. And so funny thing here, if y'all will notice, I know I've been preaching to y'all all night about the sky needs to match the water needs to match the sky. And as I've brought the sky along, the sky looks light and airy, and this water has gotten rather stormy looking in comparison. So we are going to come down in a minute and fix that. So as you get closer to the horizon, it gets a little grayer. There's some clouds, so it actually gets whiter and grayer closer to the horizon. All right, so this is actually good to see. What resin do I use for my larger paintings? I use, it's a resin made for art. It's just called art resin. I know a lot of people have asked about it, and it is a cool product, but it is, it's not an easy product. Part of me loves that I use it. Part of me hates it. It's very temperamental. So if anyone is starting out, resin is not going to make or break your work. You can do plenty beautiful work without having the resin. It certainly will not save your work. If anything, it accentuates. And gosh, y'all, I've had paintings that I loved, and the resin got all weird and basically ruined them. It was not fun. So, yeah. It's, I would say start small, start very small. Like if you're looking at doing it, start with, just very small pieces, ones you don't really care about, and just get a feel for the product and learn the product before you try anything really big. Yeah, and it's like anything. Try it on a small scale. Once you master that, get bigger. And right, so what I'm doing is, as you get close to horizons, the line gets fuzzy a lot of the time. Like you can't see where one begins and the other ends, and so you don't want this straight, harsh line, because the farther away you get this thing called atmospheric perspective, and so the water, because of the humidity far away, you often can't really perceive where the horizon is. The resin, does it emit fumes? It's supposedly no VOC, no fumes, but you still need to do it in a really, well ventilated area. And the whole, you have to torch out the bubbles and everything, and I think that process probably emits fumes. I would still recommend using a respirator. if you're doing it in any kind of quantity. All right, so now I'm going in and I am adding some highlights and kind of, if you notice, I'm lightening up all of the water so that it kind of makes a little bit more sense, because it was getting way too dark, way too stormy. There's actually a lot of light in the water because it's such a sunny day. And I also totally lost the luminescence, so I'm gonna come back in and make it, I'm gonna do my best to sort of give it a glow. And that glow is gonna come from this kind of crazy yellowy green color that is just, it's really beautiful, and it does these just wonderful things. And the best way to get that is some Prussian blue and some yellow and white. Yeah, I'm doing the beach theme because it's April. I'm in Florida. I wish I was at the beach. It's starting to get hot down here. I would like to go to the beach. I would like for them to open the beaches, please. Hopefully soon. Okay, so I'm gonna, the thing about this, the glowy color, is you kind of have to bring it in, and you have to use it a little bit sparingly. Like, you can't use too much of it, and you just need to use it up at where the light is coming through the wave, right near the crest. And it makes this wonderfully beautiful contrast right as because it's right above where it's darkest. So it all kind of blends together, and it's not a hard line. You have to kind of let them come together in order for it to work. All right. So this is my favorite part of the wave, is that glow that you get just as it's cresting. I love trying to capture that. I don't get to do it very often, but it's and this is where, you know, you can observe things in real life and capture them with a camera, and then, because as you're doing, like, you can look at them and sort of make mental notes, but I'm not good enough on site to really be able to even sketch this because it's going so quickly. I mean, like, as waves crash, it's really, you know, difficult to capture anything. So then I remember and I take notes, and then I'll bring it back with photos in the studio to remember kind of how it goes. Oh, sorry guys. The words were over the painting. I was getting distracted. All right, let me know if that's better. As I go on and I focus, I start pulling it closer and closer to me, and then I move it under the words. So thank you for telling me, guys. All right. So this is kind of a good rough place with all of this. you see rough shadows, you see rough mediums. These clouds are roughed in, but I mean, clearly they're super blocky and not where I want them to be. So from here, I can now go in and add the icing on the cake, if you will, and really kind of bring it to the next level, which is gonna involve a lot of lights. This piece has a lot of extreme light coming into it, so I will really use some good lights. Bring some yellow into this. And so with this piece, we're going more realistic colors. We're not doing anything crazy or alternative. But you can, I mean, you could make these pink. You could do all kinds of fun stuff. Oop, that picked up some orange. And so now as we're going through, I'm just taking what we have and I'm pushing it a little bit more. So the areas that are light, I'm just making them a little bit lighter. I'm taking some of these other areas and I'm just accentuating what I want. And you can kind of let the things that you don't want, you can just sort of let them fade a little bit. And I realize right now I'm kind of holding the brush a little bit weird, and it's because I was starting to get a little tight. I've been noticing lately my paintings have been getting a lot tighter. And I don't know if it's, you know, everything going on or what, but it's, so I'm trying to, there are ways to break yourself of that. And one of them is to hold the brush with your wrong hand. Another is to, if you hold your brush from the end, you're using your entire arm. It's a little hard to demonstrate while sitting down at a table, but it gives you a full movement from your entire arm rather than holding it like a pencil and just having your wrist. You then move the brush with your whole arm. Oh, thank you. I'm glad that you are enjoying this. So, yep, I'm coming through and just accentuating some clouds. Gonna bring, see, this is it's too much. So I'm gonna knock it down a little. And the other thing the waves are missing is the waves are missing this, the waves are missing these light colors. Like this is a beautiful sunny day. This is a calm day at the beach. These waves are still very moody. So we're gonna bring up the rest of the waves by bringing in these colors from the sky into the waves. So this is all the fun foam. We're just gonna bring in and this gray, when I initially did it, it came out much darker than I wanted. So we're gonna lighten that up as well. Add a little bit more blue. Bringing in a little bit more white to give a little bit of, and if you notice, this is much whiter. I'm using pretty close to pure white. And this is just for the foam. And it's even then, it's not pure white because none of this foam is actually pure white. It still has little tiny bits of color undertones. And as I designed this, if you'll notice, I know I talk about working in thirds a lot. I wanted this wave and this wave here to kind of be where your eye came. So your eye kind of comes down and around and here and goes back. So that was how I arranged this so it would be visually pleasing to the eye. So I'm going to put some light foam through here. Just a suggestion. Nothing too rough, because like I said, this is just a nice soft day at the beach. This is where you would have your toes in the water. Have your drink with you and just be watching the world go by. So I'm coming back in and adding a few more, not like waves, but just highlights. The water is very bright, so I want to make sure that, like I said, I want to make sure the water reflects the sky. So you just kind of come back and forth and you push and you pull. I'm going to add a few little more highlights to my favorite part of the wave, the part that glows. And then all of a sudden it kind of comes together. I do think these clouds are a little insubstantial, like they were too heavy, then they were too light. So we're gonna make the shadows a little bit more on them, so because otherwise they're kind of disappearing, so you don't know what they are. It's a little confusing. Do I use, yes, I use acrylic for my underpainting. It's just, I use golden fluid acrylics. So I just sprinkle a little bit of that on and water it down until it's super thin. And that's what, in painting, you call that a ground when you have a color underneath. And if you've been watching before, I use grounds because it helps me see value in color. Without it, like if it's just on white, it's very difficult for me to see the color appropriately, and it'll all be skewed too light or too dark. Yeah, here we go. Now the clouds are starting to make more sense visually. They were too heavy and they didn't make sense, and then they were too light and they didn't make sense. And so sometimes you have to kind of just play with them and experiment. And whatever you're doing, I don't want you to be afraid, because you can always try again, start over. And in fact, the more you do paint and the more you mess up and the more you try again and the more you start over, the faster you'll get better and the faster you'll improve. So one thing is to remember is the sky is still farther away than the waves are. So even though you might be thinking in white puffy clouds, because they're farther away, they won't be as white as the foam that's closest to you. It'll still be a slightly grayer color. And then the closer you get to the horizon, the more gray both the lights and the darks are. Thank you. I hope y'all are enjoying this. Okay. I'm gonna put a couple more little suggestions kind of through here, just little wispies. And with that, y'all, I think we're done. This is where I want to be right now. I don't know about y'all. So tomorrow night, we're going to be doing another one of our fireside chats. And we have another really wonderful artist that I've recently met. And her name is Kim Smith. And she does these absolutely, oh my goodness, y'all. If you like magnolias, she does, oh, thank you guys. Y'all are being so sweet. She does the most amazing magnolias, and she does a lot of painting with oils, and she's been doing some teaching as well. And I just adore her work. She also has a wonderful, just incredible grasp of color, and she's been painting lately with like my favorite fuchsias. So I'm really looking forward to talking with her, and I hope you guys can come join us tomorrow. So thank you again for staying home and for I hope you've enjoyed your time with me. If you have one of the class packs, this link will be getting emailed out at the end of the week. And in the meantime, this is up on Instagram Live for another 24 hours, so feel free to paint along. Thank you again. Oh, if you don't have Prussian blue, that's fine. You can do a phthalo blue. Yeah, Kim Myers-Smith. Yep, from Pennsylvania. She'll be on tomorrow night. So if you don't have Prussian blue, you can absolutely substitute, phthalo blue is a good one. That's another greenish blue. Cyan blue is another one. There are a lot of design cyan. Matisse has one. Matisse has it's called primary cyan, design cyan. Golden has a primary blue. You can use that as another good one. Cerulean. All of those are examples of blues that fall more green. Like if you look at the difference between Prussian blue and ultramarine, is ultramarine tends towards more purple, and Prussian blue is a much greener blue. So it makes for interesting different mixes of blue. So thank you guys again, and I look forward to seeing y'all tomorrow night. It's been a pleasure as always. Bye.